Yeah. Let's go. We just gotta go hard. I go the hardest. I bring the pain. Not what you used to. It's all part of the game. Yeah. I just gotta go hard. I just gotta go hard. Go hard. Go hard. Yeah. Oh yeah, the beast back. Adrenaline pumping through my veins. Can't relax. Original. I am
And welcome to this Wednesday edition of Pucks Across Borders daily NHL betting show on Pucks Across Borders YouTube and Total Apex Sports on X. Good to be back. Brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Right now with our promo code Sports Addict, get 10% off whatever sports card you want in the entire First Round Collectibles store. They have an ongoing sale up to 50% off, tons and tons of cards. With our promo code Sports Addict, not only do you get 10% off of regular price items, but sales items as well. That's up to 60% off with regular price and sales price items. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com today. First Round Collectibles, promo code Sports Addict. First Round Collectibles, sports cards for sports fans. Good to be back. Lots to get into from the action on the ice last night. 4 games to get into tonight. Much lighter slate tonight. Really good stagger. Again, I applaud the NHL. As I sit here and pretend to know that I know how to make a schedule. But before we do all that, as always, Andre, how are you feeling on a Wednesday, man? Good to see you.
It's good to see you. I want to give a special shout out to one of my favorite athletes of all time, regardless of sport, C.C. Sabathia. Congrats on the Hall of Fame. Type of teammate everybody wanted. Excellent career. Currently 6+ years sober too. Great guy. Really happy for him. Also shout out to Ichiro, first Japanese-born player to ever make it. Should have been unanimous, but that's another story. And Billy Wagner, 9th reliever ever. So kudos to them. Excellent careers, all 3 of them.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know the sober part about CC Sabathia, and for anybody that knows me, I've talked about this a little bit on air before, but that's my journey as well. So good for him. That's awesome. And when it comes to Ichiro, we talked about this. I was on Curious Sports Pulse with Gabe and with Joe last night, and we talked about this a little bit. Or did we talk about it off air? Whatever. I talked about it with them. Maybe it was recorded. Maybe it wasn't. Who knows? My point is, I hate it that baseball does that. That baseball voters cannot just unanimously vote somebody in. It drives me insane. And I understand why. Like, I understand the argument of like, well, he was going to get in, so I'm going to vote for this guy, or nobody can be 100%. It's like, come on, give me a break. Like, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Jeter like not unanimously voted in either?
He was also 1 vote short. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Like, how can anybody not have Derek Jeter on their ballot? It's so stupid. It drives me nuts. Like, some people are just great, and you gotta everyone just vote them in. And Ichiro to me, like, I in the first 8-9 years of my life, I was all about hockey and basketball and baseball and football. I started following when I was 9, 10, 11, 12. And Ichiro was like the first baseball player that I can remember rooting for that didn't have a Blue Jays uniform on. Like, just absolute great ball player. So yeah, shout out to him. Shout out to CC and Billy Wagner. But that whole not 100% thing, it's so stupid. It drives me nuts.
Such a joke. Yeah, I mean, he joins Jeter 1 vote short. Griffey missed 3. Seaver missed 5. Ripken. The list goes on. How are these guys not Hall of Famers? I don't know. How are some of these people that fill out ballots, they have like 3 or 4 names on them? I understand not everybody's worthy on the ballot. Like, next year's going to be rough. But the baseball process is a joke. It's still a tremendous honor, though.
Of course.
2 guys that I got to see several times in person because they were former Yankees. That, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, this is a whole other, so they weren't voted 100%. I think it's stupid, but they're still in. And then in the NHL, it took how long for Jeremy Roenick to get in? Alexander Mogilny is still not in somehow. Like the NHL has so many people that aren't in where you're just like, well, like how? How is that not? How are they not in the Hall of Fame? But anyway, that's another conversation for another day. Quickly, last night, Montreal Canadiens, another come from behind victory, beating the Tampa Bay Lightning 3-2. The Rangers, nice pick with the under by the way, by the skin of your teeth. 5-0. The Rangers beat the Ottawa Senators. That wasn't even a contest. 2 disallowed goals by the Rangers. When it was 2-0, it could have been 4-0. So shout out to the Rangers. Huge win by them. The Nashville Predators come back from being down 5-1 in the back half of that game. Come back, win 7-5. That's one of those games that you don't even throw on the television because it's over. And then you're looking at you're looking at the scoreboard as the night goes on. You're like, what is happening here? When the Predators were down, and it's one of those things, right? Probably the right decision to not throw some cash on it. But then the result happens. You're like, frick. Like when the Predators were down 5-3, I think they were like plus 600, like to win, or plus 4 something, plus a lot. And then of course the result happens, and you're like, frick. But the Carolina Hurricanes edge out the Dallas Stars in 2-1 win in what was easily one of the more boring hockey games that I have ever watched. At least this year. We'll call it this year. Very, very, it reeked of like the 2 of the best teams in their respective conferences feeling each other out for the first like 35 minutes. And then the game kind of picked up as the game went on. But Carolina wins 2-1. Capitals beat the Oilers 3-2. Very good game. That game was 3-2. Capitals win. Logan Thompson, we could just keep talking about this, like maybe a conversation for another day. But the more I watch this guy play, and Connor Hellebuck, his workload is just so much that it's hard to not pick him as the automatic Vezina. But what Logan Thompson's doing in Washington this season is just absolutely insane. And how he cannot be in at least the conversation for a Vezina. He has to be. Like, I don't see it any other way. And then the Buffalo Sabres, Vancouver Canucks up 2-1 going into the third period. And the Sabres win 3-2. Awful loss for Vancouver. We'll get into that a little bit later. And the Florida Panthers, really good, close start to this game. But the Panthers ended up beating the Anaheim Ducks 5-2. So, Andre, after all of that, what piques your interest? Waking up this morning, getting your coffee, getting your breakfast, going over the NHL. What piques your interest from last night?
100% not a coffee, guys. So let's cut that nonsense.
Oh yeah,
I want that for the record.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not happening. The first thing, I mean, the Predators coming back from down 5-1, less than 30 minutes left to win 7-5, cover that puck line even. Obviously, the first thing that jumps out at you. The second thing that jumps at you, that beautiful blue shutting out the Senators 5-0. But the Montreal Canadiens down 2-0 against a very good Tampa Bay Lightning team. They earn a power play. They score on that. They tie it up a few minutes later. 2-2 game for most of the third period. And they get that third goal just over 2 minutes left. They win the game. They win again. They stay hot. They're just, again, we both picked them to win yesterday for good reason. They're playing very, very, very strong hockey right now. They're tied with the Senators for the top wild card spot. I guess they're tied with the Bruins too, but both of those teams have a game in hand. I feel more comfortable about Montreal, though, advancing or being a wild card team than I do about the Senators, Bruins, Jackets, Rangers, Flyers, etc. In the Eastern Conference. They've been playing the best hockey out of all these teams, and you can throw the Devils in that pile. I would throw the Canes in that pile. I would throw, Tampa, who they just beat in the pile. I'd even throw the Panthers in that pile. I think the Montreal Canadiens have been playing like probably a solid stretch as the third best team in the Eastern Conference. Probably over a month-long stretch where I'd say only the Leafs and the Capitals have consistently been better. So kudos to them. They keep winning. They keep coming back and winning, as you pointed out. There's no quit in that team. And they're trending in the right direction. One of those rebuilds that we talked about that never seems to end. It might be finally ending.
Well, there are lots of preseason bets that we throw around, and I know what I picked, but I forget what the odds were or whatever. I will not forget this one. Plus 750 for the Montreal Canadiens to make the playoffs. I felt good about it. I looked really stupid for the first 2 months of the season, but it is coming around to where, and actually the two quote unquote long shots that I really like to make the playoffs, Montreal and Calgary. And both of them seem to be on their way. Calgary less so, but both of them seem to be on their way to make it to the playoffs. And like you said, man, like looking at it right now, Toronto 7-3 their last 10 games. Washington 7-0-3 in their last 10 games. Montreal 7-2-1 in their last 10 games. Carolina 6-3-1 in their last 10 games. Everybody else, man, Florida, Tampa, both 5-4-1. The Devils 2-5-3. Ottawa 5-3-2. Not awful. Some of those losses have been pretty brutal, though. But I did talk about Ottawa yesterday. I was really encouraged by the weekend that they had. Boston 3-5-2. Pittsburgh 3-4-3. You have Columbus 7-2-1, Detroit 6-3-1, the Rangers 6-1-3. But absolutely, Montreal Canadiens are up there playing some of the best hockey in the Eastern Conference right now. And we said this last year. If you followed the show last year, we said this last year. And I believe it's the same. Even when they lose, this team just works hard. That's why when there was rumors of St. Louis getting fired, I just didn't buy it, because this team just always seems to work hard, and they always seem to be in hockey games. The game they lost to Toronto on the weekend, they had that game. They were up 3-0, and a really good Toronto Maple Leaf team kind of rose from the dead, came by, and stole that game. But I'm right there with you, man. This Montreal team looks really good. And you said, like, Tampa Bay, a really good team. If you rattle off their roster, you can't really give up on Tampa Bay. I do think out of everybody clamoring for a playoff spot, Tampa Bay should and probably will be in there. I don't know. Maybe this is too much recency bias. Maybe I'm overreacting. But how, on a scale of 1 to 10, Andre, how shocked would you be if Montreal was in that third spot and Tampa Bay slipped to a wild card? Scale 1 to 10.
Based on the past month,
like 10 being shocked, like, you know what I mean?
I mean, based on the last month, 4, 3.
Yeah.
They've just been stacking points.
Yeah, I think, and the interesting thing is, what's really come around for this Montreal team is they've always been able to put goals in the net. That Patrick Laine, him being healthy, has just completely rejuvenated that the offense and that power play. But their goaltending has really, really, really come into shape here. Sam Montembeault, still one of the more up and down goaltenders you're going to find in the National Hockey League, but he's really found his groove. And this, Jacob Dobish kid, still undefeated, doing its thing. So huge win for Montreal. And I think that's what is impressed me about that win. Like if it was 1-0, 1-1, 2-1, 2-2, then they go ahead. But they were down 2-0 in that game pretty early. And for them to not allow another goal and come back and win that game, super impressive. Shout out to Adam Beck, new subscriber on the Pucks Across Borders YouTube page. Remind everybody, we now have our own page, Pucks Across Borders. So like and subscribe and share and all of that good stuff that you hear on every other podcast. Please do that for us as well. I want to go back to what you talked about, what we kind of touched on with that Nashville game, beating San Jose. All right. Hear me out, Andre. Just hear me out. Okay. So the Nashville Predators, they beat the San Jose Sharks last night 7-5. Losing 5-1, come back, they win 7-5. The Nashville Predators, Andre, are on a 4-game winning streak. They're 6-4 in their last 10 games, which means they were 2-4 in their previous 6, found a way, 4 straight wins. Just hear me out here, all right? Now, we were talking about this pre-show, and I'm not calling this a hot take because I'm not saying they're going to make it to the playoffs. That's not what I'm saying. However, when you look at the rest of the Western Conference, everybody vying for that one spot. Whether you listen to our show, whether you listen to other hockey shows out there, I think everybody can concede that there is one spot in the Western Conference left. One. Obviously, it's the NHL. Anything can happen. But from where we sit right now, the Colorado Avalanche, the Los Angeles Kings, the Dallas Stars, Minnesota Wild, one of those teams will be in the first wild card spot, and the rest of them will be comfortably in the top 3 in their divisions. Calgary Flames, 51 points. St. Louis Blues, 50 points. Utah, 47, Seattle 45, Anaheim 42. Then you have Nashville 41 points, 10 points back of the Calgary Flames. Vancouver is a gong show. If they trade JT Miller, which it seems like that's a formality that he is going to be traded. Everyone that you listen to, everyone that you read, JT Miller is gone. We just don't know where or when or for what. But JT Miller is a really good player. And I really do find it hard to believe that Vancouver's going to win that trade. And this is another conversation for another day. I'm just saying he's getting older. He is clearly a disgruntled star. Like, he had beef in New York. He's having beef here. He just seems to be a player that has beef. And so how much are you really going to get for JT Miller? There were rumors that Lafreniere from the Rangers was in a trade package. And for your sake and the Rangers' sake, I'm glad that didn't work out, because that would have been so stupid to trade a 24-year-old, not star, but a really good 24-year-old player who hasn't yet fully found his stride, had a really good playoffs last year, has had a not even mediocre, like he's on a 46-point pace right now, if my math is correct on that. So but anyway, my point is, if you trade JT Miller, I don't think you're getting better. Maybe the locker room is better. Maybe the vibes are better. But as a roster, I don't think that's going to make them better, in my personal opinion. We'll find that out. St. Louis, they're a 500 hockey team. Are they better with Jim Montgomery? Yes, but they're a 500 hockey team. Utah, they're Utah. They're going to be hovering around there, but they're not going to go on some epic, 10-game point streak. But they'll be around. Seattle, I didn't believe in them in the start of the season. I don't believe in them now. Anaheim, enough said. Nashville, let's just talk about this for a sec, Andre. The Nashville Predators finding their groove. They're scoring goals. They're getting saves. Yesterday, notwithstanding, that wasn't a defensive battle by any means. However, they play San Jose again tomorrow. in San Jose. Now, Nashville, brutal, one of the worst road teams in the National Hockey League, but they're playing San Jose. They have Anaheim in Anaheim on Saturday. Then next week, they play Vancouver, who, like we said, they're home to Vancouver, which Vancouver's actually way better on the road than they are at home this year. Then they play Buffalo on the road. Then they play Pittsburgh, Ottawa, Chicago, Buffalo. So, just to recap, they play San Jose, Anaheim, Vancouver, Buffalo, Pittsburgh, Ottawa, Chicago, Buffalo, all before the Four Nations. With the way that they're playing right now, why couldn't they go 6-2, 7-1? And if the Calgary Flames and Vancouver Canucks and St. Louis Blues all ride around 500, I don't think we can write off the Nashville Predators. I think it took way too long for them to find their groove, but I think they found their groove. Do I think they're going to make it to the playoffs? Probably not. But this Western Conference is a disaster. After the top 8 teams, it's a disaster right now. Can you really 100% certainty write off the Nashville Predators? I don't think you can. Now, the St. Louis Blues back in 2019, they were last place, found a way not only to make it to the playoffs, but to win the Stanley Cup. That's once in a lifetime. Do I think Nashville is going to pull that off? No. But I don't know, man. I look at the schedule. I look at the way they're playing right now. I don't think I can write them off anymore.
Fair. Yeah, I think it's more a product. It's definitely a product of Calgary, Vancouver. Dear God, the Blues are only 1 point back. Those teams not really doing anything. Just flat out, we said it last year with the last Eastern Conference spot. We'll say it this year with that spot, at least for the time being. Not a playoff team. There are not playoff teams occupying those spots, period. And that does leave the door open. You know, they're not going to maintain or increase that lead. They're not going to put pressure on the teams below them. And what we've seen is that Vancouver definitely didn't do it. That's why they're not in that spot now. Calgary, we don't trust to do it. St. Louis, they're perpetually mediocre. The rest of those teams aren't even worth mentioning. The door is open for them. I see that. I agree with you. When you first said it, I thought you were taking something crazy. But looking at that schedule, yeah, the wins are there for them. The wins are in front of them. They can't make a run. They can't get back in this thing. The thing that concerns me the most about this Predators team, the reason why I still would not consider them for a playoff spot at all, they're awful on the road. 2.04 goals per game on the road, the fewest in the NHL. Their points percentage on the road is 31st, only above Chicago. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they beat the Sharks on this tomorrow, right? I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, say they beat the Sharks. But then they're on the road again against Anaheim. That Anaheim team, defensively, they're tough. A lot of their games are low scoring. That can be a dogfight. I'm not going to, I'm not giving them 2 points in that one. Buffalo, a bit after that on the road, I'm not giving them 2 points in that one. I know we don't trust Buffalo. I know they have their own issues going on. But again, I don't trust them as a visiting team. That Vancouver game before then could be a nice little 2 points for them. I'll give them that. The Penguins in Pittsburgh, second half of a back-to-back on the road, not buying that. Chicago, winnable game. But again, the Blackhawks have been decently tough at home. I like the Anaheim game. That could be a dogfight. That could be, 1 point instead of 2. You can't really afford to not get 2 points in games like that when you're so far behind. I looked very far ahead to March. They go to the Garden. They go to TD Garden. They go to UBS. That's all in one stretch. Maybe one win there. The Islanders. I guess they could probably get 3 points out of that. But again, this is a team that needs 5 or 6 in those types of stretches. They have a back-to-back in SoCal with Anaheim and LA. Not buying that. They still go to Carolina. They still go to Philly. They still go to Dallas. They still go to Vegas. They still go to Columbus. I'm sorry, Columbus. I didn't mean to exclude you. You're a tough place to play. Those are a lot of games where I don't see any points, and this is a team that can afford to not have points. So I'm with you. They're in it. The door is open for them 100%. But I'm not giving them a playoff spot when they're still 10 points back, and the Flames have a game in hand. The Canucks are 9 points ahead, same number of games. The Blues are 9 points ahead. That's a lot of ground and a lot of teams you have to overtake.
It's a lot of ground. It's a lot of teams. I think where I'm coming from is that this next 8-game stretch is huge, because if you can go 7-1, 6-2 on that stretch, the odds of the other teams that you're chasing going on that exact same run, you'll probably be the best out of that group for that stretch of games. They do play 4 of the next 5 on the road, and they're not good on the road, so point very well taken there. The 4 games after the 4 nations: Colorado, New Jersey, Florida, Winnipeg, all hard games, all at home. So I just think if you can go 6-2, 7-1 in the next 8 games before the 4 nations, you're at least back in the conversation. So this conversation could be very short-lived, and they get swept on their California road trip, and it just doesn't matter. But if you go again 6-2, 7-1, 4 nations happen, you're at home for the next 4 nights, you're there. And again, I'm not saying they're going to make it. I just think that over the next week and a half, this is their chance. This is their season. We thought their season was already dead and gone, and I don't think it is anymore. I think that this next week and a half is their season now, and we'll see what happens. And honestly, they were an afterthought. I fell into the trap. I think a lot of people fell into the trap. I'll give you credit. I don't think you fell into the trap, but I did, and a lot of people did, hyping up this Nashville team. But so they've been an afterthought because they've been so bad. But I think now this is their season. There's life. That being said, I still think Calgary finds a way to make it into the playoffs. After all of that 10-minute conversation, I do still think Calgary finds a way. But it's right there for Nashville, man. You got, and again, point taken about the road record, but you got all the next 8 games are winnable games. So we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah. And if things are really getting out of hand, I was looking at some concerts in Nashville in February when they're on break. There's some, not the best lineup, I would say, but there's some golden opportunities, for Hans Zimmer. He's a conductor, maybe not what they're looking for. Rick
Springfield Symphony, yeah.
Phineas, Billie Eilish's brother.
Okay.
Yeah, Billy Strings. I don't know. You guys need to go out and regroup. It seems to work for you. So you're in Nashville. It's plenty of chances.
Yeah. You know what, dude? I bet you can go down to Nashville tonight, and there is like one of the best guitar players in the world that no one's ever heard of, just hanging out at a bar. Like, they don't need to get too elaborate with this. Just listen to some tunes. The symphony would be interesting. The conductor guy. Maybe
Hans Zimmer's a legend. You've heard Hans Zimmer before.
I've heard of him. I can't say that I'm familiar. And I'm a musician, so I feel like I'm out of that. Oh,
Dune.
That guy does shows at his concerts. That is legendary.
I think John Williams used to. He's retired now, but
Yeah. I love it. Do I ever? I'm retired too. So let's we're gonna move on. 4 games in the NHL tonight. I do think that loss by Vancouver last night, like, dude, like, first of all, Ray Ferraro used to call Leaf games for TSN and used to do the World Juniors for TSN. He has moved on to ESPN calling games. NHL legend, by the way, Ray Ferraro, great player in his own right. I really miss him doing TSN games, but he's been replaced by Mike Johnson, who is great at what he does as well. Ray Ferraro calls ESPN games, but he also calls Vancouver Canuck games periodically for Sportsnet. He's from Vancouver, or he lives in Vancouver. So when he's home, not doing ESPN, he calls some Vancouver games. You just hate it when you waste a Ray Ferraro game and Vancouver doesn't play the most exciting hockey even when they're winning, but that game last night was so awful, like just a bad game all around. But when you're up 2-1 against the Buffalo Sabres at home, and I know that you suck at home, but not being able to even get a point out of that one, just, I don't know where to go with this Vancouver Canucks team, man. And I'm assuming Brady is not watching. He's probably in like calculus or something right now. But I just, nobody between you, me, and John, RIP, not RIP. That's not fair. He's not dead. But the three of us who've been on this show, I don't know if anybody's really pumped Vancouver's tires more than me. I know we all like loved Vancouver at certain times. Vancouver plus money was just an every night winner last year, but I just don't see how this gets better. And I know it's the NHL and crazy things can happen, but I just don't see it, man. Like I think this team's done. And I think that obviously this is a huge exaggeration saying that I would rather take Nashville than take Vancouver. That seems a bit dramatic, but I just don't see how this team figures it out and stays in a playoff spot. I just don't.
Yeah, Vancouver, I think the trade could breathe new life into that team.
Yeah, maybe.
It's one right now. I mean, there's no trade happening. Nothing materialized. We're not in those circles. So we don't know how soon it is coming. But until I see something tangible from Vancouver, they're just not on my radar at all. Honestly, I'm just penciling them in for losses until I see a trade of some sort. It can be anything. They could trade for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's bad. I can't. I don't know. And 3-5-2 the last 10 games. That's the thing too. Like we talked about this a couple weeks ago, and the Rangers have completely turned it around. So we can't really use this like analogy anymore. But like a week or two ago, the only difference between Vancouver and the Rangers was the loser point, right? And at home, 8-10-6 at home, 12-6-4 on the road. If I have that right. Let's not belabor this anymore. That loss last night was just really tough to watch, man. Really tough to watch. And you could tell because they got a lot of chance. Like, dude, Quinn Hughes had like 3 shots in the last 6 seconds of that game somehow. And you can just tell when that final whistle blew, this team just looks dejected right now. So we'll see what a trade can do, but we'll just have to see.
I mean, it's, literally said it a few times though, but we literally saw all of these things happen in Manhattan a month ago. Dejected,
and now,
everything was wrong and need to make a trade. I guess they had made trades already, but needed to, make moves. Just the sky is falling almost. And they've turned it around. It's Vancouver. They have the talent. They have the pedigree. They have the resilience. And they've won before. They can turn this around. But they need to hurry up. Time is, it's getting late early, as they say.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's the big difference here, Andre, is like what you went through in New York with the Rangers. Understand what you're saying. That was in November and December. This is happening right now, and it's like there's not a lot of time left, like you just said, right? So we will see what happens with that. All right, moving on. 4 games in the NHL tonight, starting with the Boston Bruins and the New Jersey Devils. And I'll just say this, like, you look at this matchup in, September, and it could be the tale of two juggernauts. Both teams do not look good right now. 2-5-3, the Devils in the last 10 games. Boston's 3-5-2, pretty much the same. On the road, Boston 9-12-3. The Devils are a good home team, but not right now. The fact that the Devils are minus 210 favorites, Boston's plus 172, the way these two teams are playing right now, nobody in this game should be favored by more than like minus 130, in my opinion. But take that for what it's worth. Let me just pull this up here, make sure I got these odds correct. All right, here we go. Boston plus 172 at on the road. The Devils minus 210 at home. Minus 1.5 for the New Jersey Devils, plus 126, plus 1.5 for the Bruins, minus 154. The over is 5.5 at minus 118, and the under is minus 104. Andre, kick it off, man. What do you see? Bruins, Devils in New Jersey tonight.
Yeah. So the Devils, if they lose this game, they're on a watch. I very briefly just want to say their flight log from Friday night, December 27th. I want to see like what happened. I want to see the incident report. There has to be one, because since that day, they were rolling. They were absolutely rolling. They'd won 6 of 7. The 3-game winning streak included 3-0 over Pittsburgh, 5-0 over the Rangers, 4-2 over the Carolina Hurricanes. Then they flew to Raleigh. The very next day, lost 5-2. Whatever, it happens. But since then, it's been a complete disaster. Their last 11 games, they're averaging fewer than 2 goals per game. That is not New Jersey Devils hockey. They're allowing just around 3. Not great, not terrible, but they've only won twice in that stretch, and they were both 1-goal wins. They only have 1 OT loss in that stretch. I'm sorry, they have 3. But the point being, they're not winning games. They're not competing. They're not scoring. It's really weird. Something's wrong with the Devils. Something happened on that flight. I don't know what it is. I'm going to get to the bottom of it, especially after they lose tonight. Boston, for all of their problems this season, I've hated how often I've picked them lately, but they keep scoring. These past 4 games, they've just been scoring, win or lose. I'm going to trust it. The Devils can't score right now. The Bruins can. Finding the back of the net, that's half of winning a hockey game, and Boston's doing it better. So I'm taking the over 5.5. A lot of 5.5s this week. Really, really weird. But I'm taking it. I'm taking the Bruins to win on the road.
Yeah, you know what, man? I can't really argue with it. I think if there's one, oddly enough, like if there's one team that I do trust to turn it around, I think it would be the Devils. I just think, and this is a little bit biased because I watched, Sheldon Keefe really closely for the last 5 years here. But he's a really good coach, and he's got a lot of weapons on that New Jersey team. And this is just, they're punching way below their weight right now. Like I expect the Devils to turn this around more than Boston does. Or sorry, more than I expect Boston to. And this is just one of those games we talk about it almost every day with these odds where it just doesn't make sense to me. and it's really scaring me off that Boston money line. The plus 172 is beautiful, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, but it just doesn't make sense. Like the Devils, the way they're playing right now, being minus 210 just doesn't make sense to me. I do love the over. I'm right there with you. Minus 118, over 5.5. I think that's beautiful odds. It is curious to me that the under is minus money, but I do like that over. So I'm leaning New Jersey. Obviously, the minus 210, I don't like the 60-minute line, puck line. I don't really trust any of it. And I certainly am not disagreeing with a Boston pick here. This is just one of those situations where the odds just are super weird. But I do really like the over. The one Bruin who is contributing quite frequently, David Pastrnak, plus 150 to get on the board tonight. I really like that as a goal scoring prop. Moving on to the Columbus Blue Jackets in Toronto, which as a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, I can tell you this game is way more concerning to me than it should be. You made an excellent pick with Columbus on the road the other day, losing to the Islanders. You have pointed out how bad this team has been on the road, yet this team seems to give Toronto fits for whatever reason. Toronto, minus 205 at home, plus 168 are the Blue Jackets on the road. Minus 1.5 for Toronto is plus 118. Plus 1.5 for the Blue Jackets, minus 144. The over 6.5 is minus 110, and the under is the same. Where do you go here? Columbus in Toronto tonight.
Yeah, I understand those are your boys. I understand why you're concerned just from seeing them play Columbus the past few times. A lot of games where they allowed 6 goals to the Jackets.
Yes.
So I understand your concern, but your boys are rolling.
They are.
They're at home where they're 19-9. They have a 3-game winning streak. They scored 7 goals in Montreal. They scored 5 against the Lightning. They scored 4 against the Devils recently. They're chilling. They're fine. Columbus has not been scoring. I guess it's only 2 games. I wouldn't quite qualify it as a road trip yet, but they have not been scoring on the road during this swing. 1 total goal between the 2 games. One of those games literally went to a shootout, and they didn't even get a goal in that. Your boys are fine. Toronto puck line. Toronto puck line.
Yeah, I mean, the first place I go to this is the over 6.5, because I feel like if Columbus does win this game, it's going to be a lot of goals. We're going to see another 6-5, 5-4 hockey game. I do think Toronto puck line is the right play here. And what's been interesting to see, and I had my little Toronto speech on Monday, I think it was, kind of just telling the fans, like, just enjoy the ride and stop worrying over every little slip and slide that the Maple Leafs tend to have. I will say this, and you just talked about it with the amount of goals that they've scored in the last 3 games. For the majority of this season, the goal scoring for the Maple Leafs has been down, largely because Craig Berube has been trying to nail it into these guys' brains to focus on the defensive end first and let the offensive tendencies come out naturally, rather than always forcing the offense, which we saw for the last however many years in Toronto. Well, we're finally starting to see this offense come around to what we have seen over the last few years, while keeping the integrity of the defensive end. So I'm with you on the over 6.5, or at least I don't know if you gave a total, but I'm with myself on the over 6.5. And I do like the minus 1.5 here as well. I feel like a 5-3 win, 5-3, 5-2. I'm saying 5-3 because I do still feel like the Blue Jackets are going to make this one interesting. something that worked out really well for me on Monday night. 2+ points right now. We talk about the Jets, who we're going to talk about in a minute. We talk about Scheifele, Math, and Connor, how those two are always getting a bunch of points, 2+ points for them. Matthews and Marner are the other two players right now who are getting 2 points almost every single night, and Marner is getting 2+ points pretty often as well. Matthews to get 2 points is plus 126, and Marner to get 2 points is plus 128. Score goal, Matthews minus 140. Matthews is back. It's safe to say he's been back. He's been battling injury all year long. Looks the best he's looked all season right now. He's minus 140 to score, so you can take those odds if you want. Plus 410 to score 2 goals, which maybe the best pure goal scorer. Not me. I think it's pretty safe to say the best pure goal scorer in the NHL right now. Plus 410 for 2 goals. I like those odds. But for Willie Nylander to get a goal, plus 125. And a decent, it's not a super long shot, but a longer shot than the usual suspect. Matthew Nyes, plus 200 to score tonight. I really like that one as well. I would give out Toronto Maple Leaf shot props, but I'll be real, I've been missing on those so hard lately. Whenever I bet William Nylander to get 4 shots on goal, he gets 2. It just happens, and I'm not around to, like, literally exactly 2. Every time I bet him to get 4+ shots, he gets 2. So I'm staying away from that, but those are the props that I like on the Toronto side in this game. Moving on to Winnipeg in Colorado, and not like a major announcement or anything like that, but starting tonight's game, I am covering the Winnipeg Jets for the Hockey Writers on top of the Dallas Stars. So pretty excited about that. Pretty cool. Looking forward to that. And of course, my wife is now pretty much have to watch hockey every night, so not good for her, great for me. Winnipeg Jets plus 108 in Colorado, minus 128, minus 1.5 for the Avalanches, plus 198, plus 1.5 for the Jets, minus 250. The over 5.5, minus 110, and the under is the same. What do you got here, bro? Winnipeg, Colorado. I feel like we're going to be on opposite sides of this one, but we'll see how it all pans out. What do you got here? Winnipeg, Colorado, in Colorado tonight.
Yeah, this one's interesting. I think the first thing that needs to be said about this game, these teams have played already 3 times this season, and the home team won every single time. Both games in Winnipeg, the Avs got shut out. 1-0 loss and a 3-0 loss, a week ago, 11 days ago even. New Year's Eve, the Avs won 5-2 at home. This one is in Denver, so the initial lean is towards the Avs. Again, this Avs team has just been alternating wins and losses lately. They're coming off a loss. That sways me a little bit. I think they're going to win this one for that. The Jets have been pretty inconsistent lately. It's weird. Starting with that Avs loss on New Year's Eve, they lost 3 in a row. They beat the Predators, lost again. 3-game winning streak. Now they've lost 2 in a row. One at home to the Flames, the other one in Utah. Games they should have won. This Jets team is better than that, so a bit concerning. I'm gonna take the Avs here. You marked me. You got me. I just trust them more right now, coming off a loss. I trust them more on the road against this Jets team. The Jets are not bad per se, but just losing my faith. So I'm taking that Colorado money line.
Losing your faith. Interesting. Yeah, it's weird, man. Like, Winnipeg has to be, and I'm not too sure why. Maybe because my alma mater is in Winnipeg. I don't know. I more than any other team in the NHL besides my own Toronto Maple Leafs, I just always lean Winnipeg. I actually lean Winnipeg more than I lean Toronto, if we're being really honest about this. Like, Toronto is playing Columbus tonight, and I'm nervous about it. So that kind of tells you what you need to know. But yeah, I think the same thing about what you're saying about Colorado coming off a loss. That's how I feel about Winnipeg. 2 games in a row against Calgary and Utah that were just very lackluster, not the Winnipeg team that we've come to know over the last couple regular seasons. And so the exact same point that you made for Colorado coming off a loss, excuse me, I'm making that exact same point for Winnipeg coming off 2 really disappointing losses, and I think plus 108 Winnipeg, tremendous value. I'm surprised it's not a little bit more, to be honest, and I think that's the book showing some respect to Winnipeg. So I'm taking Winnipeg here plus 108, and I do think, like, as much as Colorado has been good at home this year, 14-10-1, this year they've been, when I say worse at home, they're still good at home, but this isn't the same home team that we've seen over the last couple years. Like, the last couple years, they've been virtually unbeatable at home, and that's not been the same way. Winnipeg, 13-9, straight up on the road. Good, not great, but good. And I do think Winnipeg finds a way to bounce back tonight. Just double checking here. It is going to be Blackwood in net. No goaltender listed on FanDuel. Do you have anything over there on DraftKings for a goalie for Winnipeg side? I feel like it would be Hellebuck, but
I don't see why it wouldn't. I am seeing Hellebuck, yeah.
You are saying Hellebuck. Okay, so Hellebuck in net for Winnipeg tonight. Excellent matchup. Really excited for this one. Of course, we all know that I watch Winnipeg as often as I can, but now that I am covering them starting tonight, I am excited to have my eyes on all 60 minutes plus of this hockey game. I'm not going to go, because they're playing Colorado, you got to show respect for Colorado. I'm not going to go the whole 2 points thing today. However, 3 shots on goal for Kyle Connor is minus 140. Not the best value, but I do like that. And Mark Scheifele, I will still have something on these 2 players. Mark Scheifele plus 146 for 3 shots or more on goal. So I really like that value as well. And a Kyle Connor anytime goal plus 155. So mark that down for me for props, and I do like Winnipeg to win this game. Did you give a total? I've been talking for a long time now, so I already forget, but did you give a total on this game?
I did not give a total. I would probably lean under, surprisingly, even though it's at 5.5. But
yeah,
again, when these teams met in Denver the first time, it looked like an Avs game, 5-2. So
yeah,
not really sharp on that.
Yeah, I'm not really strong one way or the other either, but I do lean on the under as well. Moving on to Florida in LA to wrap up the night. And as I said at the top of the show, shout out to the NHL. 7:10, 7:40, 9:40, and this game's on at 10:10. So a beautiful, beautiful stagger. If you do it right, you'll be able to watch a little bit of every game. The Los Angeles Kings hosting the Florida Panthers. The Kings are minus 120 at home. Plus 100 are the Panthers on the road. Minus 1.5 is plus 210 for the Kings. Plus 1.5 for Florida, minus 265. The over 5.5 at minus 106. And the under is minus 114. What do you got, Florida Kings? I'll say off the top, and I haven't fully settled on a side here yet. I always just let you go first so that you can work out the kinks for me, and I can come come over the top with a better opinion. But Florida back to back. The score looked really comfortable last night, but the first half of that game was really close. Kings got absolutely stomped on the other night by Pittsburgh. This feels like a Kings win. Maybe not convincingly, but that's where I'm kind of leaning to start. What do you got?
Yeah, I wouldn't say convincingly, but I'm confident that the Kings are going to win. They've just at home this season, they've only lost consecutive games once. I mean, they only have 4 losses, period. So that's not really surprising. But I think they can turn it around. They're facing a tired team. They're facing a team that, like you said, they got the win. Yes. Wasn't the most convincing win, especially when you consider who the Panthers are compared to who the Ducks are. The Kings are rested. The Kings are coming off a rough performance. The Kings need to get back on track. I think this is a game. So I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think it's going to be a grind. But I have the Kings coming out on top. So under 5.5 and that minus 120 for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. There's not too much deeper to go on this one. I do think the Kings find a way to win. I will say, we talked about this a little bit yesterday, maybe not yesterday, maybe Monday, but we have talked about it this week, and we talked about it a little bit at the top of the show. The Los Angeles Kings at home, 14-3-1 on the road. They're NHL 500 at 11-11-4, 6-4 last 10 games. I will say, man, the Los Angeles Kings are. This is a little quick side note. Do you think they're in danger of the collapse that we saw last year? I don't think so. But after another really strong start to the season, they're only five games up on a playoff, 5 points up on a playoff spot right now. And I do think it bodes very well for them that the other teams chasing a playoff spot can't figure it out to save their lives. But 55 points, man, they're not comfortable. Not as comfortable as you would have thought, considering how good they were to start the year.
Yeah, they're slipping in the Eastern Conference wildcard territory. No, I don't know. There's just, I think part of why I don't think the collapse is coming is because how many teams this season aren't really challenging or threatening. How many teams have already had a collapse? I know the Kings aren't playing well, but they've had, obviously, from last year's team, they've had rough patches before, way worse than this. I think they can pull their head up and get back on track.
Yeah. It feels that way. It does feel that way. But yeah, interesting nonetheless. All right, those are the 4 games tonight. Moving on, we got our best bets brought to you by First Round Collectibles. Right now with our promo code Sports Addict, I do got to reach out to the boys at First Round Collectibles and change this promo code because Sports Addict is a thing of the past, but that's okay. Promo code Sports Addict for 10%, not the past. It'll be anyway, it doesn't matter. Promo code Sports Addict, 10% off your order. FirstRoundCollectibles.com. Right now, they have an ongoing sale up to 50% off tons and tons of cards. And with our promo code Sports Addicts, not only do you get 10% off of regular priced items, but sales items as well. That's up to 60% off your order when you use promo code Sports Addict at FirstRoundCollectibles.com. Name a favorite sport, Andre. Hockey, football, basketball, baseball, wrestling. Maybe you want a boxing sports card for some reason. I personally don't. Oh, curling.
Yeah.
Don't call out the boys like that. I don't know if they have curling. I got to look into it. Are there curling sports cards? That's a great question. I watch curling. As I said, I am in between moves right now, and we're staying at my in-laws for a couple weeks, and my father-in-law Andre, you love his spot, man. 4 TVs, there's basketball, hockey, 2 games of each on every night. When football is on, that's on there. The college football game the other night, that was on one of them. Just sports all night long. And there was a night, was it Monday or Tuesday? No, it wasn't last night. Maybe it was Monday night. It was like 10 o'clock at night, and both sports were dead. Like the NBA had one game, the NHL had one game. I threw curling on, and he didn't really know what to do with that. It's like, what are we why are we watching this?
He's a lot to learn.
Yeah, he'll figure it out. But anyway, my point is, whatever you want, besides curling, unfortunately, I promise you, First Round Collectibles has a sports card related to your favorite sport. Go to firstroundcollectibles.com today. Promo code SportsAddict for up to 60% off your order. Firstroundcollectibles.com. Sports cards for sports fans. Andre, what do you got? Best bet on a Wednesday night. So close to nailing our parlay last night, but we're going to nail it tonight. What do you got?
Yeah, sorry for butchering the read just a little bit. I just love it. I won't butcher the best bet though. Toronto Maple Leafs -1.5.
Whoa!
They're just, Columbus, they're not scoring right now. It's because they're on the road. They've struggled on the road all season long, and this Maple Leafs team is just, I think they're too good, flat out. I think there's another multi-goal loss for the Jackets and another multi-goal win for the top team in the Atlantic Division.
That's right. Top team in the Atlantic Division. I love it. And listen, man, we've talked about this. I've talked about this a ton. Florida's playing tonight. Florida's crept up to 3 points back now of the Maple Leafs. It's really important. And again, I've talked about this a bunch. We'll talk about it again in the future. I'm positive of that. It's really important for the Leafs to win the division this year. It's really important. Out of any year, there's no real juggernaut in the East right now. Maybe Florida will come back to what they were, but Carolina, Florida, New Jersey, every team is gettable in this conference, in my opinion. And if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs, this is the year you got to win the division and give yourself the best opportunity going into the playoffs. My best bet for the night. Sorry, I got to pull this up here. All right. Best bet going into the night. Oh, man, I'm flip-flopping a lot. You know what, man? I meant to call this out when we talked about the Leafs and Columbus. And I know there's 4 games, but I think we're going to do a little same game parlay here. I meant to throw this out when we were talking about this game, but I completely forgot. One play that I like more than picking a side, more than anything else, is Toronto Maple Leafs goals. Over 3.5 total goals for the Toronto Maple Leafs. -128. So right in there, good value. Over 3.5 goals for Toronto. Can you do that as a same game parlay on DK?
I'm looking for it actively. I've done it before. It might not be available right now. Might be the real issue. But I'll store it in my back pocket. But what we can do, if I cannot find it, which I can't, you can make that your best bet. And I'll just quickly pivot to Bruins Devils over 5.5 because I do love that one.
Are you sure?
Oh, yeah. I'm very sure.
All right. Look at us figuring this stuff out. All right. So family play then. We both disagree on a side for Winnipeg, Colorado. Are we going back to the Kings after they crushed our souls on Monday? Is that what we're doing here?
We're all about redemption here, right? I'm fine with the Kings.
All right. We're all about forgiveness and grace and all that good stuff.
Second chances and all that.
All right. So I will just throw this out there real quickly, and I'll take it off, and we'll see what happens. But over 3.5 Toronto Maple Leafs with the Toronto Maple Leafs puck line, if you're able to do both. Over 5.5 for total goals in Boston, New Jersey, and Kings money line -120. That's plus 700. If you take off the Toronto puck line, it is plus 503. What do you got over there?
I do not have the Leafs puck line because we're still working that one out. I do have the over 3.5 goals for the Leafs. I have over 5.5 in Jersey. I have the Kings money line at 10 o'clock, and that is plus 513.
Oh, so you win again.
Keep sneaking by you.
Swear, man, DraftKings is paying attention. They do. Sponsor us already, man. I'll stop giving FanDuel odds. Like, I'll stop talking about FanDuel if DraftKings just stops being sneaky behind the scenes and gets on board. But
they want you to talk about FanDuel so that when we just, when they're better, it speaks for itself. They're really playing us right now.
That's true. That's true. I do. I feel had. Well, everybody, as always, thank you so much for hanging out with us on our YouTube and on Total Apex Sports X. We really appreciate that both. Just remind everybody, if you want to watch the show on TotalApexSports.com, that's totally fine. You're well within your rights. Actually, we encourage you. We love TotalApexSports.com, and we love that you watch us on their Twitter account. Just go over to our YouTube and like and subscribe, and that's all you got to do. If you want to watch somewhere else, do whatever you want. We encourage it. But give us a like, give us a subscribe. Andre, appreciate you. First Round Collectibles, appreciate you. 10% off. Promo code Sports Addict. Total Apex Sports. Still a lot of football, lots of basketball content. Go check it out over there. Until then, we'll see you tomorrow.